So hello everyone, welcome to this open house for Terra.do's Climate Change Learning for Action program. My name is Greg Findley. I am the director of the program. You can see in my title, we write LFA for short for Learning for Action. So we refer to LFA a lot. And when I refer to that today, I'm talking about our program, the Learning for Action program. It's great to be here with you. I've got a couple of alumni from the program as well. Ben and Siley are with us, and they're going to talk in a little bit. But hi, folks. Yeah, hi, welcome. Thanks for joining. I'm going to kick us off, though. I am going to run through some slides, talk about the program a little bit, and then I'll pass it over to our two alums, and they will share their thoughts. If you have questions as we go along, you can please feel free to put them into the chat. I will call out, I'm not very good at following the chat when I'm presenting and speaking at the same time. So I will look at that when I'm done. And then we will have plenty of time for questions and answers at the end. Now, I know this is not something people normally do, but I invite you all to turn your cameras on if you're comfortable and you're in a decent place to do that. You don't need to, it's okay. But the reason I invite you to do that is that at Terra.do, one of the things that we do is build community. And it's hard to do that online if we can't see who we're talking to. But today is a little bit different as an open house, so no big deal if you can't do it. Just wanted to invite you. Okay, I am going to share some slides, and I think you all should be able to see that now. So this is our open house, Climate Change Learning for Action. And I'll talk a little bit about Terra.do. Hey, thanks for turning on cameras, folks. It's great to see you. Terra.do is an organization. We were founded in 2020 with a mission to get 100 million people working on climate change solutions by 2030. It's an incredibly ambitious goal. And frankly, we're a long ways from reaching that goal, but it's an ambitious goal because it's a massive problem and it takes lots and lots of people working on climate change. And that's where this program really comes in, is that it is designed to help people find their role in making a difference on climate change. So we're excited that you're with us. Terra.do does this in three ways. We have learning, we have courses, all designed to help you find your place. We have a strong community, a really big online community of people working in climate and learning about climate. And then all of this is with a strong emphasis on doing action. Our name is Terra.do, not Terra.edu, because we believe that education should lead to action, in particular on climate. So we focus on the do rather than the education part. So this course itself, the Climate Change Learning for Action program, is a 12-week interdisciplinary climate action accelerator. It's kind of a mouthful, but it is designed to accelerate your action, your climate action. We have now run 32 cohorts. Cohort is a group of people starting the program together. We do this a 12-week program with people going through it at the same time. So it's cohort-based program. Oops, I'll go let somebody in here. Um, We've done this 32 times. Our next cohort that launches in July will be our 33rd. We have had fellows. Fellows is what we call our students. We've had fellows from more than 86 different countries, and we have way more than 4,000 graduates at the program at this point. The program itself is a mix of asynchronous and interactive learning, and I will talk a lot more about both of those in just a little bit. But asynchronous means on your own, and then we do have some live all on Zoom sessions where you can come and talk with others. It's important to note that it takes about 4 to 6 hours a week. Sorry, I said 4 to 6, 6 to 10 hours is what the average person spends in our program, 6 to 10 hours a week. And I'll just call out that if you can't commit 6 hours, it may not be worth taking the program. You won't get out of it as much as you might want to. An important point as well is that you get lifetime access to the class material and all of the recordings of all of our live sessions. So lifetime, it's not just during the program. You can continue to come back and refer back to those later. So what is LFA? It's a transformational journey that accelerates climate action. Now, transformational is not what I say about it generally. It's what fellows tell me after the program. They say, oh my gosh, that was transformational, which is pretty incredible for an online program, I think. And so we focus on three main parts in LFA. The first is climate literacy. We believe very strongly that you can't solve a problem that you don't really understand. So we spend a lot of time working on climate literacy throughout the 12 weeks. We acquire foundational climate knowledge, and I'll talk about what that knowledge is, the different sectors in just a little bit. We look at connections between the global and local applications, and then we bring in a systems thinking lens and a justice lens as we look at everything. There's also a strong community building element and emotional resilience element. Working on climate is difficult, it's challenging, and broken people can't fix broken things. And so we make sure to take some time to heal ourselves and to connect with others and realize we're not alone. And a network is really important when you're trying to learn about different roles in climate as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And then we spend time on personal pathfinding, which is looking at your background, interests, skills, etc., and seeing where you fit into making a difference. I'll give you the big key takeaway. There is no silver bullet solution to climate change. There's no one thing that will solve this problem, but there are lots and lots and lots of little things that added up together. They're really not little, but they can feel little. But when you add them all together, that's how we get somewhere. When you look at that and there are all these thousands of different things that need to be done, that means there is a role for everyone, no matter your skills, interests, background. There is a role for you in working on climate change. So this slide is kind of a funny one. We use this as we introduce the program to our fellows, and then we look at it each week. It has 12 circles on it, different colors, and those are the 12 weeks of our program. This is really a slide we use in labs. But we start by looking at the natural systems. We look at climate science, carbon emissions, global and local impacts, and then we go into the human systems. We start with some climate communication because it's very important to be able to communicate about climate change no matter what you do. And then we look at what are the systems that have led us to where we are today and that we're working within as we go forward and try to solve this problem. So we look at people's mental models and we look at economics and politics. And then we apply those lenses in the second half of the course as we get into the solutions. And we'll look at energy. Nearly three-quarters of emissions come from energy around the world. Food and farming is another huge sector for emissions. Then we'll look at carbon dioxide removal. We'll do a research project together. Then we'll look at finance. How do we pay for what we want to do? What are we paying for today? What do we want to pay for, and how do we do that? We'll look at carbon offsets. We'll look at corporate action on climate change. And then at the end is the final assignment is on action planning. And if you notice, the slide is a roller coaster, and that's because emotionally, that's what it feels like a little bit. And we just like to call that out, that it can be a little bit negative and dark when you start to explore the climate science and the path that we're on today and looking at the impacts. And we don't go there because we're trying to depress people, but it's important that we face the problem so that we can solve it. But pretty quickly in the program, we get into much more positive territory and people end up feeling really quite hopeful. In fact, when fellows end the program, we poll them on how they're feeling. In a recent cohort, this is a word cloud. The larger words are what more people answered. And at the end of the program, at the end of 12 weeks, people were feeling motivated, hopeful, determined, informed, energized, more clear, ready, etc. So that's where we hope you will be at the end of the program. And I call that out because a lot of people come to us feeling a bit down and hopeless. And at the end of the program, most of those people are feeling quite different. So LFA graduates go on to do amazing things. They are climate leaders. Many of them get great jobs. Not all are looking for jobs, and I'll talk about jobs in just a moment. Some working currently in climate or in different roles, they become great. They are incredible employees because they understand the problem so well, the broad spectrum of the problem. A lot of them go and start impactful businesses. They push their companies to take action. They work with their communities and pass climate policy. They influence their friends and family. There are all sorts of things that people go on to do in our program. Okay, a lot of people come to us because they're looking to transition to climate work, and I get asked all the time, how do you help us get a job in climate? Well, I was asked to lead a presentation recently about climate careers, and it was how to get a climate job. And so I put together, what do you need to get a climate job? Well, you need four things. You need climate literacy. you need to understand the problem to understand the solutions. Notice that's one of the big pillars of what we do in LFA. Another thing that you need is you need a climate community or a network you can tap into. The reason you need that is there are a limited number of jobs out there. And if you just randomly send in a resume, CV, cover letter, whatever it is, to one of those jobs, it's unlikely that you will be looked at. But if you know someone or have someone, a network, someone within that organization or someone who can make an introduction, it can really help you get a job. A community and network are really important. And then the final thing, or the not the final thing, the third thing you need is to understand your skills and interests. You need to figure out where you fit in and how you can fit into working on climate. Those things that you need to get a climate job are the three main pillars of LFA and what we spend our time on in the 12 weeks. But there's one more thing you need to get a climate job, and that's what you need to get any job. You need to have a great resume, CV, a great cover letter, you need interviewing skills, etc. And we work on that as well within LFA. So we have a number of optional sessions. These are optional, not required, to help you figure out how to get a job. So we have career coaches specializing in climate change who come in and talk to us about resumes and networking and LinkedIn, and they offer office hours. We do some networking events. We have a corporate sustainability expert come in and talk about launching your career in corporate sustainability. We have someone else talking about the hidden job market, which is really the jobs that never get posted on the internet, that never go public. How do you find those? In addition, we have a number of other things. We have an asynchronous workbook that you can use to go through and work on preparing for a job or for applying for a job. We have an experts mentorship program where you get to connect with experts working in climate change. We have well over 5,000 people on Slack. It says 5,000 alums. This isn't our only course. So people who've taken other courses with us. And then we have one of the biggest jobs boards that's out there. Um, I keep on let people in and it changes me. People ask all the time, what kind of results do you get? Well, it's hard for us to know exactly who gets a climate job because not everybody lets us know they got a job. And then there's a little bit of what is a climate job? A little hint there. If you were working on payroll, that could be a climate job if you're working for an organization that's working on climate solutions or adaptation, but sometimes those aren't obvious as climate jobs. So in 2023, we actually went and searched LinkedIn and the internet to try to see what our fellows had done and where they had ended up. And what we discovered is that people going through LFA got climate jobs if they wanted to get them. 65% after 18 months of people who are looking for a job. One thing I want to call out is we do not screen applicants to our program based on their ability to get a climate job. So it's not like we go, ooh, these people have skills that are looking, that we know companies are looking for. We help people figure out where they could fit in. And not everyone coming through our program wants a job, but what we have seen is pretty good results of people getting jobs, including people getting one or two offers while they're in our program, even, and many others within 6 months after the end. We also have more than 70 organizations that have hired more than one Terra.do fellow, and they love to see LFA on people's resumes, LinkedIn pages. They think, okay, this is a person who's put in some time and effort to learn about climate, and they know what they're talking about. So our fellows have gone on to do all sorts of amazing things and work for incredible companies. They've started more than 80 different companies. There's just a few of the organizations that our fellows have gone on to work for, our graduates have gone on to work for. I'll talk really quickly about the program itself. So what's it like? I said 6 to 10 hours. I have had someone tell me they spent 40 hours a week on the program, which is really pretty incredible. You do not need to do that, but we do offer a lot. We offer things every day of the week, but only four things are required if you want to get a course completion certificate. And I always encourage people to focus on those four things. The first is the classes. Classes are asynchronous, meaning we release classes in batches weekly, and you go through those on your own time. There's no live session for those. On Mondays, though, we have live sessions. We do career sessions and coffee chats, and those are optional. On Tuesdays, this is a main component of our program. We have 90-minute lab sessions, and you get to select a time that works for you. And about 25 fellows come together with an expert instructor for 90 minutes a week. This is a required component to get a course completion certificate. It's also one of the highlights of the program, coming together to talk about climate every week and what you're learning about. On Wednesdays, we have guest sessions, guest speakers that come and talk about pertinent topics that we're learning about. Those are also required. I will call out that both the labs and the guest sessions, and frankly, the coffee chats and career sessions, they're all recorded. So if you can't attend live, you can watch the recording, and that counts as if you attended live towards your certificate. On Thursdays, we have the deep dive labs where we go deeper into the topics that we're learning about. And then on Fridays, we do networking and connecting and co-working on assignments and things like that. So there are three things in green here that are required. They're required. There's one more required piece, which is assignments. We have 5 assignments roughly every 2 weeks during the program. 3 of them are individual, 2 are in teams. The individual assignments are geared to help you find your role and to create your action plan. The team assignments are to learn about the context of climate in other parts of the world and then to do a research project on a mitigation solution of your choice. For example, let's say you're into fast fashion, which actually has a huge carbon and climate impact, and you want to look at carbon or at solutions in fast fashion. You could get a team and put together a project on that or whatever it might be, building decarbonization, whatever it is. Um, our next cohort is coming up. It launches on July 28th. Applications are due July 23rd. The course after that, people always ask when's the next one. It will begin on October 20th. A few things about the program. It is expensive for some people. We do offer scholarships. If you need a scholarship when you apply for the program, first of all, the application is quite simple. When you apply, you can just say, I do need scholarship money to be able to afford the program, and we will do our best to meet your scholarship needs. You say how much you need off. We can't give it to you for free, but we can do it. We offer a great deal of money as scholarships. You can also pay in 3 equal installments to make it so you don't have to pay all at once. And my favorite feature is we have a 3-week no questions asked refunds. So if you're not sure if it's the right program for you, why not give it a shot? If it doesn't work, you can always drop out, get a refund. I personally was a fellow in this program, and I wasn't going to take it because I'd been working in climate for some time, and I didn't know if it would really be useful for me. But I thought, yeah, I can always drop out and get my money back. I started the program. I absolutely loved it, loved going to the labs, meeting other people, and I stayed. In fact, I loved it so much. Here I am 4 years later, still working here. So, but I wouldn't have done it if I couldn't have gotten my money back if I wanted to. And then we start every session with a keynote. Our upcoming keynote is Dr. Zachary Leib, who's been working for the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, although he was recently laid off in the U.S. because of DOGE and the cuts. He's got a new job he's starting, but he's done a really great job of trying to help people understand climate change patterns and decipher the difference between those and natural variability. And he also has experienced some noise in climate because of politics. And he's going to talk about all of that and what's going on and how we go forward. He's really concerned with all the cuts and layoffs of scientists that there could be a complete gap in the next generation of scientists. Some of the other talks we've had recently, we had Belen Paez of Pachamama, Fundación Pachamama, working with indigenous people in Latin America. She's in the Amazon where she's working. She's from Ecuador. We also had Dr. Fidel Kaboub from Africa talking about a Pan-African vision for a multipolar world of peace and sustainable prosperity. So that was a lot. I threw a lot at you there. I'm going to stop though, and I'm going to pass it over to our alums to hear from them. And Ben, you're on my screen right there. Or Saley, is your connection good at the moment, actually?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good right now. If you can hear me
Okay,
well and can you see me?
yeah, I might pass to her first, Ben, if that's okay, just because she's got some connection issues today. Thanks.
Yeah, super.
So
Okay,
take it
super.
over.
I hope everyone can see me and hear me. Okay. Um, yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm at an outdoor, I'm actually at a slightly outdoor location today. I have a team offsite, and I wasn't anticipating this, but luckily the network seems to be okay, so that's great. Very happy to be here, and I'm probably going to I'll take a couple of minutes to talk about my experience. Uh, I've not seen Greg's slides before, but the three pillars he uses to talk about what the program is. That's actually it's very similar to what I generally talk about when I talk about my experience with the LFA. So I'll probably just refer to that and say how it worked out for me. Um, the first one was on climate literacy. I came into LFA at a point where I wanted to transition into climate. I knew I really liked the space and I wanted to do something, but I didn't actually know much. And so LFA actually served as a wonderful foundation for me. And what I loved most about it was the fact that it is actually it just looks at multiple aspects, right? So it's truly multidimensional. It looks at the science, it looks at the social angle, it looks at an equity angle. It just looks at a lot of different angles. And while of course LFA might not have taught me everything that I need, but it definitely taught me every different aspects I should look at when I look at an issue, right? Which I thought was very, very important. I also really like the structure of the course, and we can refer to it about how it's asynchronous. And while so, honestly, when I was starting, I was like not sure, kind of, will I be able to do 6 to 10 hours? How will it work out? But I think the structure of the course makes it quite easy. So while there are some parts which you need to do at a particular time, a lot of it you can do at your own time, right? And so if you can find that time, I think it really helps. Also, yeah, I think one thing that I really liked in the way the course is structured is there are assignments, but the assignments really help you to do like not just the literacy part, but also the part about the last thing that we went to, right? About finding your space in the climate puzzle. And I'll come to that. So I think just like summarizing a bit of literacy, I think it really gave me a foundation on which I could build for everything that, I have done since. The second part about community, I think that's my favorite part. I think that's the best thing that happened to me when I did Terra. Um, because it's really given me so of course, right, tangibly it's given me a network of people that I can reach out to every time maybe we have a question or I want to get connected to somebody. So it's given me that tangibly, but much more than that, I think it's given me a community of people who I feel are in somehow the same space, the same mental space that I'm in. And I think that's really, really important, because once you start thinking about climate change and once you start working in it, things can get pretty depressing pretty soon. And so if you don't have that community of people, I think it's very difficult to just stay in, right? So I think the best part about LFA and Terra for me is the community I've got. So there are, of course, there's the Slack, but there are now also WhatsApp groups. So we have a pretty active group of, at least in India. So we have a Terra.do India, we have a Terra.do Bangalore, like whatever, it's by different cities, and they're actually pretty active, right? So it's one of those groups which I think buzzes every day, and I'm very glad it does. Right, I found we've had great discussions. People are passionate. You start talking about an issue, you find a lot of opportunities. So I think that's great. So I really really um, I can give you like countless examples of tangible ways in which it's helped me. But to me, the most important thing is just knowing that there's a set of people who kind of resonate, and especially in a world where maybe, uh, like honestly, a lot of my friends and family don't necessarily resonate with what I think about in terms of climate, right? And so it becomes so important to find that community. So I can't stress enough about how beautiful that is. And finally, the last part about you could say career or just what I call finding my place in the climate puzzle, right? So there's so much to do in climate. There's so much to do in terms of sectors you can work in, the roles you can play. I actually made a grid at one point of time of the different sectors that are there and the different roles I could play, right? And I think that really it's quite overwhelming to sometimes figure out what you want to do. And I do think the course did help me in two ways, right? One, it helped me structure a little bit of this. Two, I had some of the assignments kind of made to think about it. And I actually some of the conversations I had with the coaching session as well as just my cohort mates, right? Because we discussed We had assignments, we discussed what we would do. Kind of gave me the courage to make that leap. And I'll take a minute to tell you about the shift I made. So before I moved into climate, I quit my job a couple of months before I did Terra, but I used to work in a fintech startup, right? So I used to lead P&L for a product at a fintech startup. I now work in climate communications, and at that, like the shift seemed just like ridiculous to me, right? Like why would somebody who does P&L in a fintech startup even work in climate communications? And honestly, the first time I got the courage to actually say it was the last assignment I did for Terra. Uh, and even at that point, I wrote it and I'm like, hey, this just sounds ridiculous. And a person in my class said, it's not that crazy. You can do it if you want to. And it really made me think. And uh, I can't yeah, it's been an incredible journey, but it's the first time I actually thought I could do it. To today, by the way, I lead ecosystem messaging for Rain Matter Foundation, which is a nonprofit that works in climate. Uh, and if you'd asked me 2 years back, I just wouldn't think this has happened. So yeah, I think just in terms of kind of giving you a thought partner, helping you through this journey of kind of finding your space, Terra has been amazing. Um, yeah, and that kind of sums it up. So that's how it worked for me, and uh, it's I'm very happy I found this community. And I'm not saying it because I'm here and because Greg is here, but honestly, it's been a very very critical part of me making my transition to climate. So yeah, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thanks so much. I usually tell fellows when they start the program that I came to learn about climate change, but I've stayed because of the community. It really is, I think, the best part. I agree with you
Yeah,
there. Um,
yeah, yeah,
thanks. And thanks, Ben, for your patience. I'll pass to
yeah,
you now.
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
correct, just so I cover all the topics. Anywhere I should start, or any things that just my overall experience.
Yeah, your
Uh,
overall experience, where you were, where you
okay,
are now. Yeah.
awesome. So I'm Ben Simon, based in Chicago. Um, I found Terra as I was starting to, peek my head up. I was heads down on building a business in the pet space, healthcare devices for pets. And as I started to look around and think about, what I wanted to do with the next chapter of my life, climate was definitely a big part of that. I've always, reading books and watching documentaries and the one at the table that's like, hey, we should do something about this. And I think making that a part of life's work is challenging, but is definitely doable. Um, and so that's what drew me to Terra initially, and started to talk to many different people in the space about everything that Terra is, everything that Terra does. And everyone was just raving about it. And there's certainly a spirit and an energy that goes beyond everything that they do. They make themselves available to help and support you in really personalized ways, which I found to be really successful for myself and be really helpful. But when people ask me what my experience was like, I'd say number one, the cohort is incredibly diverse in terms of global perspectives. You have undergrad students as well as executives and kind of everyone in between from all different types of time zones. So just the amount of learning from your peers and getting to understand the global scale of the problem. That's what really had me looking forward to 8 p.m.s on Tuesdays, checking in with my team and cohort leader. So it was just really fascinating to see the world in different ways that we're all a part of, and things that we're doing here are affecting people all the way in the rest of the world, and also thinking locally and being forced to think that way as well. And after as Terra really went on, starting to find your niche within climate, I think is one of the most elusive and hardest things to do. Of course, you've got food and ag, and you have buildings, which are huge emitters. You have the grid, you have industry, And some people know right off the bat what they want to do. And I find it's a bit of a daunting process, because as a generalist, I was just really interested in everything. So as you learn more about something, you keep diving deeper into it. But I think for myself, as someone who was like, I want to go in this direction, it gave it a really, really wide view of things. And of course, Terra has incredibly deep resources that most people never touch, right? But it's always there when the time is right, for anyone. So the community itself is incredibly active as well. So throughout the Slack, the mentor network, I've spoken with probably a couple dozen mentors. So networking in this space was really helpful. Um, and yeah, I continue to connect with a lot of the people that were a part of my cohort that we just finished up a few months ago. So it continues to be a part of my life. And it helped me get to where I am right now, which is at a company that does wireless power for all different types of devices. So medical devices, consumer devices, trying to move away from all the cords that we have by our bedside, and all that e-waste. And it's not a company that brands itself necessarily as a climate company, right? But they have climate investors. There's a strong climate mission, and it's part of the fight, the part of the movement, I believe. And that came through just networking, through telling my story, through putting it out there, what I wanted, which was I come from a startup entrepreneurial background, and I'm looking to work in climate. And that message reached the CEO through an investor. But it's all about, all it takes is that one connection, whether you're looking for a job or not, or whatever it might be. But certainly figuring out how to vocalize how climate is a part of what you want to do and what you want to accomplish, is really important. So yeah, yeah, really excited, for everyone here, wherever they are on their journey, and happy to support. And yeah, really grateful for Terra, being a really big catalyst and accelerator, and just framing my understanding, and just being able to have those important conversations, even with just your family and friends that normally you wouldn't necessarily be able to have, which oftentimes are the most important. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And folks, if you have any questions, please, you can use the raised hand function and raise your hand, and you can ask them, or you can type them into the chat. One thing that Ben mentioned there that I want to highlight as well is the diversity of people in our program. We actually have had a high school student in our program. We have college undergraduates. The average person is a mid-career professional, 35, 45, I don't know, maybe even slightly younger than that, looking to transition to climate work. We've had a number of retired folks. We've had PhD climate scientists come through the program, and you think, what in the world are they doing here? Well, they know the climate science part, but they wanted to expand into the economics, politics, and look at all of the solutions. And so I kind of highlight that to say that no matter where you are, there's probably something for you. And in our courses, in the written materials, the class materials, that we release, they're fairly high level, but there are links to go deeper, and people go deeper all the time into topics that they're interested in. And then something else that was mentioned is some people come knowing what they want to do, and others aren't sure what they want to do. I had an alum tell me recently at one of these open houses that they came knowing they wanted to work on clean energy because energy is such a big part of the problem, and they really wanted to be part of the solution there. So they wanted to be a part of that. And they got into the course, and they really realized, I'm just not that excited by energy. It's just not that fun. It doesn't get me up in the morning. But they found out they loved agriculture and food, and ended up getting a job in regenerative agriculture. So it's fun to explore all the different areas. Are there any questions? Anything we can answer for you folks? Yeah, there's a question for Sally here. He said the community, including the groups in India, put up opportunities in climate. Can you please share any of those?
Hey, sure. So basically, I think we have a we have a WhatsApp group that's pretty active, and like very often you will have people sharing job openings that are coming up either in their organization or something that they know of, right? So I think it has to. I don't recollect something that but it's all kind, right? I think opportunity relationships, it's even like also for example, grants for somebody starting up, or grants for non-profits, fellowships. So there's a bunch of opportunities that come up. Yeah, that answer the question. Mm,
I'll just name that within Terra, we have a Slack community. We use Slack to communicate for our current fellows and our alums. And we have a channel that's one is climate work, and people will post, "Hey, there's a job here I just found out about." And there's another one that's asks and offers, and someone will say, "Hey, there's a foundation that's giving away this money. I happen to know someone there. Anybody want to talk about that?" Or others will say, I'm looking at a role at a Fresh. Does anybody know anybody at a Fresh that I could connect with to learn more about this organization? So that's not answering your question, but just replying sort of to the same idea. There's a lot of sharing of resources, information all the time about opportunities and jobs. Other questions? Oh, how big is the community in Bangalore? I don't personally know, but I think it's pretty large. Sally, do you know that?
I think, yeah, I think the WhatsApp group I think is more than 300 people. And I'm sure it's larger. We've had meetups. We've had a bunch of community meetups in Bangalore, and I think the last one we had about 50 people coming into it. So yeah, I think about that much. The community must be larger. The WhatsApp group has about I think 300 or 400 people now.
One of the interesting things about the program, the diversity again, so we mentioned we've had people from 86 different countries. A typical cohort, we have 20 to 30 countries represented. About 55% of the fellows come from the United States on average, about 18% from India. The UK is maybe 8%, and then the rest come from all over. A number of other folks from Europe, but we have people from Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia. Singapore has a pretty strong representation. Yeah, as Siley said, 440 people on the Bangalore. What's up? What's
Yeah.
There are people in Germany for sure, a number of fellows from the program, but I don't know specifics. So the interesting thing on those different communities, it's really people in those areas who join those communities. And I'm in the United States in Rocky Mountain region, so I'm not familiar with exactly who's in those communities, but there definitely are communities there. We have someone at Terra named Kirti Mannion. She's our community manager. And she's got the most incredible memory, and people will join our program and they'll be like, "Hey, Kirti, I'm in Berlin. Do you know people there?" And she'll give you like 10 names of people to check out and places to look and share if there's a Slack channel or a WhatsApp group for that. Other questions? I've had people ask questions about, how does this compare with, say, a master's program or some of the other fellowships that are out there? A master's program is more in depth. It often takes 2 years and a great deal of money. This program was created mostly by Kamal Kapadia, one of the co-founders of Terra.do. She's got a master's and a PhD in climate science, or in climate, really, and energy. And her what she was trying to do was give you all the most important points that you would get in a master's program, but in just 12 weeks for a lot less money, so that you don't have to give up 2 years or even 1 year and a bunch of money and take time off of work, that you can do this while you're working and transition into climate work. So, and I've had people who've done master's programs and then come to us and said, "Wow, I wish I would have done this. It would have been great." I'm not saying there's any reason not to do a master's program, um, if that's where you want to go. What does the weekly lab where we work with others look like? Um, so the labs are interesting. So the instructor will put together a deck to share with the fellows. and run through a deck, but it's a mix of breakout groups so that everyone gets a chance to talk and discuss and share their local context. There's a mix of recapping what was learned in the classes. So we release all the classes. So Energy Week is week 7. We release the energy classes in week 6. So you have a chance to read those before lab in week 7. We'll have an expert guest talk. And then in lab, you'll be talking about energy issues and looking at how do you apply that to your local context. It'll be a mix of discussion, a little bit of mini lecture, not a lot of mini lecture. We prefer to have discovery learning with a theory that if we tell you something, you don't learn it as well as if you discuss it and explore it on your own and reach those conclusions on your own. There's a little bit of pathfinding in each of those labs where you spend a little bit of time looking at how would I fit into this topic area? How would my skills and interests fit here? The assignments, so the very first exam assignment is a dreaming assignment, and it's imagine that it's 2040 and we are on a path to solving climate change. What would the world look like? What would your community look like? And what role might you have played? Now, some people have thought a lot about climate and they know what they want to do and what role they would have played and what things would be different. Some people are brand new to this. We don't care. It's not to know, see what you know. It's really to dream. And the reason we start with this assignment is besides dreaming, it's really hard to get somewhere if you can't imagine what that place looks like. So it's start with imagining a better world and a better future. And then can we work backwards? How would we get there? How would you help get there? What would you do to get there? And then we refer back to that assignment in the 5th assignment, which is where you create your personal action plan. Like you've gone through 12 weeks of the program now. What would you say differently in this assignment if you were to do it today? And what are you going to do going forward? And the action plans are really important. We share them in graduation in small groups. People share their action plans, get feedback from each other, spending time thinking about it, talking with others about what you're going to do. You get advice, people help you refine it. And then when you share it, people also offer more advice. And then it's something to kind of hold you to, right? You've publicly said, here's what I'm going to do. And it's a lot easier to go out and do it than when you've stated all of that. And Ben and Sally, do you have anything you want to say about assignments or the labs, frankly?
Yeah, I think aside, like I said,
You're breaking up.
I think sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hey, yeah. So I actually really like the assignments, and I think primarily to me the ones um that I like the most actually was like the first and the last one because I think it really helped me think through a little bit more on how I want to do my own journey. Um, Even the actually other good thing was we did a bunch of group assignments, which were also helpful because you kind of had like a thought partner to go through some of this. And so I actually think the structure of assignments is quite good, right, for somebody trying to figure out their path here. Um, in terms of labs, I, like again, I think why the labs worked for me is it was so other than of course like the kind of the masterclass kind of that happened every week. The lab was one place where it was live. You had to go at a certain time, and in some ways, at least personally, I actually like the discipline, right? Because that kind of helped me stay on track and kind of go through the weeks as it were. And I think that's one of the key things, right? So in the 12 weeks, um, just kind of try to stay on track, right? So even if you can't, you don't have to do everything. You don't have to read every word and every slide deck that you get. But I think it really helps to stay on track and not lag behind. And the labs in a way were the forcing function for me to do that, right? Because whatever happened last week, it kind of discussed it in the next lab, and that kind of became my motivation to stay on track. And I, at least to me, that really helped.
Yeah, thanks. Anything you want to throw in, Ben?
Yeah, just to add that there's a lot of free flowing conversation, but there's also a lot of kind of time for breakout rooms. So there's time to talk if you're better in small groups or big groups, kind of throughout. So I think that really allows for engagement and time and talking and attention. So just getting to the way that organize the Zoom meetings is really conducive with kind of the overall structure of the program. And some of the assignments are really fun. They kind of get you out of your comfort zone, and then oftentimes you reference them if you're looking for a role or whatever it may be that your goal is. They kind of act as a building point. Really, I remember going to Starbucks in Chicago and just asking people what they thought about climate change, and then reporting it back to the class. So that was fun to kind of get me out of my element, to get us out in the world, and yeah, kind of really make things feel a bit real with a lot of the assignments that took place.
Yeah. One of the things we do in the labs is we do try to to encourage everyone to speak, whether that's in a large group or a small group, because being able to have courageous climate conversations is really important to working on climate change. So we practice that in labs to where you feel comfortable chatting. And we don't say we're now going to practice talking about climate change, right? We just have conversations, and people find it builds confidence as they go. Um, The other thing I want to call out really quickly, one of the assignments is that mitigation research project, and I have seen people put that onto their resume that I did a research project into um, EV charging, and they're applying for a role doing something about that. And then the goal to get asked about that in the interview and be able to talk about that with some knowledge. And I've seen that work for some folks. There's a question, is the program recommended from a pre-MBA engagement point of view, especially for someone looking to build a career in sustainability? Um, I would say yes, for sure. We have a number of people who've either just come out of MBA programs or are going into them and looking for sustainability. And a number of organizations out there are looking for climate literate people to work in those organizations. And if you were, I personally have an MBA, so I can speak a little bit to this. I did the MBA first, of course, but if you were to go into an MBA program and had a climate perspective, I think it would really help you figure out where you want to be, what you want to work on. And one of the things that this program really helps you with is to see greenwashing and go, wow, that organization is talking about stuff, but it's actually not really climate solutions. And that's really helpful at figuring out where you want to be and what you want to work on. And frankly, calling it out to others in the MBA program that, nah, it's not really a solution. Um, that sounds good, but it's not real. Thoughts on that, Ben, Sally?
Yeah, I
I
think
think
very similar to what, hey, sorry. I think very similar to what Greg said. I have an MBA. Of course, I had it like much before I did LFA. And I think, yeah, this is exactly what I think. I think if I'd done LFA before I did my MBA, I would probably be a little less like. So I think I'd probably see through some of those things. And in some ways, if you already know you want to do a career in sustainability, I think it'll be quite helpful. It may give you perspective to look at some things that you would learn on the MBA slightly differently.
Thanks. Yeah, were you going to comment, Ben? You don't need to if you don't want to.
no, nothing really much more to add there.
All right. Okay, thanks. There's a question, how many different time slots for each session or live session? So the live sessions, the guest talks, the deep dives, those are offered once per week. And they tend to be at 8 a.m. Pacific time. They're not always at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We have to base our times on something. So we base it on Pacific time in the US. 8 a.m. we have found is not really very convenient for anybody. But the reason we do 8 a.m. for most of those sessions is that for most people in the world, it is a time when they could attend. And so we do a lot of our events then. We do record those. So if that's not a convenient time, you don't have to do that. But we offer a number of different times for the labs, and you get to select times that work for you. We generally offer times between 4 every hour from 4 to 10 a.m. Pacific time, and then 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Pacific time, and find that that covers almost everybody around the world, no matter where you are. And you get to choose from those. If you're traveling, which a lot of our people do. So one thing, if you're traveling, we understand this is adult education. A lot of people are working, they've got families. You're going to miss some things on occasion, and that's absolutely fine. We just ask you to let your instructor know, hey, I'm going to be traveling. I won't be able to make it. You can watch the recording. As far as the live labs go, you can join another lab, but we actually generally recommend that you don't. And the reason is the lab becomes your safe space, your climate squad, the people that you get to know really well and feel comfortable sharing your inner thoughts and inner feelings about climate. And it's a little bit weird if people are kind of coming and going and you don't know them as well. So we generally recommend that you stick within your lab group. And if you miss one, just watch the recording and get caught up that way. And then the other talks are all only at one time. Question about scholarships. Do you get scholarships? Yes, we offer scholarships. The application form is quite simple. And when you're applying, so, I've had some people say, oh, I didn't start the application because I was afraid it would take a long time. No, it's really quick. It doesn't take long at all. Our goal is to encourage you to work on climate. It's not to make it hard to work on climate. So we want to make it as easy as possible to join us and to work on climate. We give a lot of scholarships. One thing I tell people is if you don't need a scholarship, please don't ask for one because we have a lot of people who do. And if you don't take one, that leaves more money for other people. If you do need a scholarship, please do ask for it. We encourage you to do that. We want you to join us. We want you working on climate. Uh, Generally, 50% to 75% is the maximum of what we can do for folks, depending where you are and what the price is for you. So, we can offer a pretty good discount if that's what you need. There's a question too, is it possible to explore career options worldwide in climate or pursue options in the country that you belong to? So absolutely, we have people looking to travel. One problem with wanting to work in another country is can you get a visa or work permit to work there? But we have people all the time saying, I'm in X country and I want to look at working in Europe. Anybody have any options there? There are more job options shared in the US, Europe, and India than in some of the other regions. We've had some folks in, say, Nigeria, and we've had to say, I don't know if we'll have a lot of job options that we can share for you. And many of those fellows have said, that's okay. I want to learn and I'll figure out something from here. So just wanted to call that out. There's a lot of job sharing. We have a jobs board, but a lot of the jobs are in the US, Europe, North America, India. Other questions we can help with? We would love to see you join us, and it's going to be an exciting time. And yeah, I mean, clearly, I think it's a great program. Our alums here have just volunteered to come speak with you because I think they found it a useful program and it helped them in their journeys. And many, many people say that. And yeah, we want as many people working on climate. In particular, now the world seemed like we were heading in a good direction for a little while, and we're kind of going the other way now. And all that means is that it takes more of us to stand up and to lead. And we need more leaders working on climate. And we encourage you to join us in doing that. I know some of you already are, but we'd love to encourage you to join our community and let's work together. It's not too late. An important point about climate is for a while there, people were talking about, oh no, we have 5 years to save the world. And if we don't, the implication was we're all going to die, although they didn't actually say that. And the answer is, of course not. That's not the answer. There's not a climate cliff. We're going to fall off. But every tenth of a degree of warming we can avoid prevents suffering for millions of people and other species. And it's important that we do our best. So, where can you join the community? Go to Terra.do on the web. And really, to join the community, the best way is to take one of our courses. You get into our Slack and other things, but you can sign up for community events and other things on that Terra.do website. Yeah, we'd love to see you here and love to help you figure out your role and get involved. Other questions, other things we can help with? Oh, I see another. Yeah. Other things we can help with? Awesome. Well, if you do have questions, here, I'll put my email in here. You can reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions, happy to schedule a chat if you want to talk. Greg at Terra.do. Oops, I put it only to one person, sorry. Let me share it with everybody. reach out to me. Happy to answer questions, happy to chat. Uh, and yeah, thank you. I want to thank Siley and Ben so much for being with us. Thank you so much. Thank all of you for joining us as well. And yeah, hope to see you in our next cohort. It's fun. It's kind of crazy to say that learning about climate change is fun, but it really is. And if you noticed on the roller coaster slide right at the end, the roller coaster goes down again. And that's partially because that's the image we had, but it's also a little bit of how it feels when you're like, wait, I'm not going to see my friends again next week in a organized session. Oh, it's a little bit sad. But you stay in touch. People stay in touch. So cool. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sally. Thanks, Ben.